Welcome Wargamers, this is Doug with 2+ Stuff, and today we're talking all about the Deathrattle. These are the undead skeletons that make up a vast majority of the legions of Nagash. Now, just like the Nighthaunt one, individually these units don't have a lot of lore behind them, but when you put them all together you get something very interesting, and there's a ton of people who really love skeleton warriors and this kind of thing, and so it's a theme that people have fallen in love with, and so I want to cover what's been shared so far. All across all the mortal realms, there are what's called barrow empires. And these are really mini kingdoms of skeletal warriors. Unlike Warhammer Fantasy Battles, where skeleton warriors were very automaton-like, they didn't have a personality individually, they were sheer willpower was what kept them moving on the part of the necromancer, the vampire lord, whoever was commanding them. But in Age of Sigmar, a lot of variety exists in terms of what a skeleton warrior or kingdom barrow empire is like. Some are very autonomous. They retain their personalities of who they were as a person when they were alive. We noticed this in Nagash Undying King, that one of the characters in the first chapter has all his memories and his personality. And of course there are those kind of mindless drones, the ones where the necromancer and vampire's willpower has superseded their own individuality. My point in saying that is that there is wide berth for you to create a narrative for whatever barrow empire you want. What we're going to be diving into is the different types of units that you see and the lore that we've been given about them. Starting off with the leader, who kind of sets the tone for a lot of these things, is the White King. Now, when they were living, White Kings were great conquerors, kings, generals, and things like that, but after death, their hunger for war and domination has not diminished whatsoever. And while some barrow empires are filled with skeleton warriors that are mindless, they don't have a personality, without fail, under the leadership of a White King, they become precise and disciplined. Meaning they're not just meandering around, shuffling kind of aimlessly. No, he whips them into shape, organizes them, and makes them a force to be reckoned with. And this isn't just limited to organization, it's also like complex moves. So feints and counter-assaults, things like that. White Kings are people who are extremely intelligent and they just kept doing that kind of smart warfare after death. They are noted for being fiercely prideful, and some of them only bend knee to Nagash or the mortarchs themselves, something they seriously cannot defeat. And if you're looking to make lore for your own barrow empire, your White King really sets the tone for that empire's character. Remember, there's a lot of reasons that people go to war, good, bad, somewhat neutral, and so these people embody the goals of what they had in life. Meaning, you could have a noble barrow lord who is a good guy who just, tried to protect his people, and then some cataclysmic thing happened and they all died, and he's still on that mission. You could also have a totalitarian leader who just wouldn't let his people go, even in death. There's a lot of ways that you can go with this, and I do suggest you kind of flesh out the story of your White King if you're building a thematic Deathrattle army, because he really will set the tone for that. Now, there's 3 other units that fit into the Deathrattle kind of sub-faction. We're going to talk about those. Next up is the Black Knights, and these function as the cavalry guard for the White King. And very simply, they used to be knights in life, and they still are. They actually, in my book, win the award for the smallest amount of lore in any battle tome. That's really all it says about them. Next up are the Grave Guard, and these guys are more of the household guard, right? The more official honor guard of the White King. It's why they're such fewer in number, but such heavily armored ones. In fact, the book takes time to point out that you really can tell where a barrow empire is from based on how their grave guard are kind of kitted out. Ones that live in sort of a hunting culture will have furs and things like that. Ones that come from the realm of metal will have jewels and kind of augments in that way. Their armor tends to be blessed with some sort of dark magic, that kind of stuff. So a lot of the personality in the army is attributed to the grave guard and how they present and defend the White King. And of course, the last type of unit, and really the most prevalent, is going to be the skeleton warriors. Now, these act as your basic line troops. And of course, as I mentioned at the top of the show, they can have a wide range of autonomy and personality depending on how you want to theme your faction. What is known is that under the leadership of a good White King, they are killer. They fight in perfect formation. When they're not at war, they're definitely at work, building defenses, stripping forests, making weapons, things like that. They do the things of war perpetually because they don't need rest. They don't need food, nothing like that. And just like the Graveguard, they look different in each realm. It's described that some in Ghyran have moss and grass all over them because they don't have the time like the higher skeletons to clean themselves off. In the realm of fire, they light the skeleton warriors on fire and you have to fight a flaming enemy, which sounds horrific. And all of that is a lot of fodder for you to create a really unique force, even if what you want to do is stick to Deathrattle. And just like I said, there's not a lot here. This is all of the lore that we've been given on those units, but there is a lot of cool stuff there. And so what I want to transition to is why thematically Deathrattle are a really cool faction. From Nagash Undying King, we know that they can have sentience, but we also know that not all of them do. This is likely up to whatever necromancer resurrected them, or magic, or whatever is perpetuating their afterlife. And this is really a great point of divergence for you to make your own narrative. Because in Undying King, they revere the dead, because these are people who have lifetimes of experience and wisdom, and they share it with the living, right? They work in harmony for the sole purpose of this tribe or people group surviving and, succeeding in the mortal realms. Conversely, there are a lot of stories where skeleton warriors and undead are treated as slaves and they have no need for free will. So if you're going to make your own kind of lore and background for your army, I think starting with do they have sentience or not is a great starting question to set the tone for a lot of different things. And what's cool about these guys, just looking at them on the table, they make up the true horror of fighting the undead, right? Endless hordes, and in some cases the loss of identity. Even if your story is that they haven't lost their actual identity, like they can still talk and have memories and things like that, visually speaking, there's nothing to separate them apart. And your enemy is looking at this thing that has no face. They're all skeletons, they're all skulls, but generally speaking, they all look the same. And so it is a great psychological effect on your opponent. If you choose to have them be without their own minds and their own memories and things like that, and very much like a thrall or a slave kind of thing, it is extremely dark thematically to see the will of a necromancer or a white king just extended upon the battlefield, right? It's an extension of them. It makes them seem more terrifying. Going back to the white king, him being a center character makes for great storytelling. As I talk about in a lot of these factions that have a lot of models, like a high model count swarm type army, your characters stand out as being thematically more important. And the reason I say that is the power of the army is in the masses, but the character is in the heroes. So go through some questions. Is he a good king? Was he a bad king? Was he king at all? Was he just a general? Do his people have a will of their own? Does he actively suppress it? Is he on the move? Like, is this a moving kingdom? Or do they have a sacred spot and they're just defending it with their lives? As you make these stories, remember, your leader sets the tone for your storytelling, and it makes them bring the army to life. And folks, that's everything there is to say about Deathrattle at this point. They make fantastic additions to any army. Like I said, if you're using them as allies to something else, or if they're just using them as battle line for your Legions of Nagash army, having whoever your general is thinking about these skeleton warriors as an extension of their will really does add to the horror if you think about this a little hard. So it is a fantastic thematic tool for any army. You don't have to just do a Deathrattle one to see how cool these guys are. This is the last video that I'll be doing for the Death Week, or the Legions of Nagash Week, I should say. It has been extremely fun, and there's been more engagement and responses and positivity from this week than any other week in this channel's history. I want to thank you all so much for that. If you have an Age of Sigmar lore question that you'd like answered, go ahead and click subscribe and leave it in the comments down below. I read every single comment and respond to as many of them as I possibly can, using them as inspiration for future videos. Now, this last week I was talking all about Legions of Nagash, but I'll be getting back to your questions here very soon. If you'd like to support the channel, please go ahead and share this video wherever you consume your social media. And if you want to support me in a more personal way, head over to the 2+Tough store, located in the show notes down below, and grab yourself a gaming mat set in the Realm of Death. It's perfect for the Malign Portents campaign going on right now, and if you get it, you will not be disappointed. I have a limited quantity, and once they're gone, I'm not making any more. And if you can't do that right now, I completely understand, and I'm just so thankful that you spent some time with me here today. I look forward to seeing you in my next Age of Sigmar lore video. Thank you so much for watching, and happy wargaming.